Alrighty guys, welcome back to Steel and Wheels. We are going to finish that part 1 episode in part 2 episode. I don't really know the ins and outs to building one of these flip-flop loader devices, or I've never actually been able to witness one working either. I've just seen them on the shelf and have somewhat of an idea in my brain on how they work. I'm assuming they have to sit snug on your tyre, of course, and then this bottom bit, I'm guessing the wheel has to stay on that bottom bit for it to basically lock the rear of the piece into place because they're attached. So it needs to be sort of the perfect sort of angle so that the bottom of the tyre is touching this, and then that's resting on the back of the tyre to hold it forwards. So that'll be a lot of placement and stuff. We might take the wheel off the bike and put it up here to get that sort of measurement right. I think the most critical thing will be getting this angle and the spacing right so that it's touching the bottom, touching the back. And I guess this is gonna be a lot of trial and error. I think we might do upright first, just get that out of the way and done. And then we'll move on to this thingamabob, work out the best line of approach to do that. And we'll see where we get and how we go. Alright, let's do it guys. Alright guys, first up, couldn't get a piece of angle that I was happy enough with the depth for the 100mm wide. So I just bought a Peter RHS, as you can see, and we'll just do what we did the other day, and we'll just chop the side out of it and dress it all up so that it's not sharp or anything, and that should be fine. I'm trying to decide, we might put a notch sort of down here and across there like that, so that it actually sits on the floor of the ute over the 75x50 over there. But we might not, we might just cut it down to 75 as well, but I think it'll just look nicer if I put the effort in and notch it over and down. So I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do that. So might just get the grind, I might put a line across here, make sure I got it right, and then I think we'll just start cutting. Alright, so we got these cut out. Nice bit of channel that we're looking for. We'll clean it all up, but I figured we may as well get all the grinding done at the same time. So we've gone and looked for a piece of something that's round, essentially, that was the right size for what I wanted. And I've just marked up this, and I basically want to cut like a round on the top of it for the top of the ute, because I think it'll just look a bit nicer, won't leave sharp edges and whatnot. So we'll just get these marked out. Alright, so we're fully marked out. That'll be the notch to go over the RHS, so it'll basically sit like, it'll be on top of that, but down. So it'll be like that. Got that round for the top. So we'll trim it all up in one go. We'll chop this out, chop the radiuses out as good as I can with a grinder, and then I'll just grind them back with a grinder wheel or a flap wheel or something. Then we'll clean up all the sharp edges in here, make them all pretty and nice, and then we should be ready to weld it on. Alright, so there's the rough cutout, so you can see it better. It's gonna basically sit like that on the 75x50. That's how it'll sit, but of course this piece is a lot smaller, so. But yeah, it'll just sit like that, touch the floor. Got the nice radius at the top that will grind back, so it's actually a radius instead of just a sharp but a bit of cuts. And then we'll see what she looks like. Alright guys, there we go. Nice finish. It looks pretty good. They're fairly equal. Clean that all up. Looks good inside. So, pretty happy with that result. We might go put it on there and just see what it looks like, eh? Alright, so over the ute. We got the stand here. That'll look pretty nice, I think. It's got a nice little radius there just to make it look that little bit more professional. But I know that's not center, but you get the rough idea of how it'll look. So I'll get the second one cleaned up and then we'll rip that off, and then that back to the bench, and then we'll weld them all on, and then we'll start on this piece. So basically, you get a bit more insight now. It'll come off of here. If I was to guess, let's say roughly around here, there'll be a hinge, and it'll basically operate the flip-flop like that, and then that'll be it. All right, let's do it. All right, we're taking this off. We've got it cleaned up. Where we're going to weld it there. Now we just want to measure the center. So these are 800 apart, so we'll go 400. And then 50 each side of your 400 line for our 100 box. That's it, then we just weld them on. We'll put a bead in there and we'll clean that bead up. Then down, around, inside, and then it doesn't really support anything. All it has to do is stop the bike from going like that. So, once the bike's in there, their bikes are normally fairly balanced, so as long as you've got something there to stop it from rocking either side, it'll be good. This will be a fairly tight fit. We'll probably end up actually having to try and bend this out and stretch it to like, maybe like 120 at the top, and then taper it down to 100 just so it can roll into it, and then it'll be locked in there. But that's it. So I'll get the welder set up and we'll start welding these in. All right. It's positioned where we want it. And then tack it in. Alright guys, so I've taken the wheel off the bike. It's in the rack, it looks good. I'm happy with that. Now, this bit where we're gonna get the teeter tot in here somewhere, I don't know the exact science behind it, pretty much because I haven't actually seen one in use, but the way I understand it, like I explained before, but it might be a little bit easier to see now that it's here, is I believe there needs to be a flat piece under here for the bike to hold weight on, which essentially will lock down the piece that's here, because that's got weight on it there, and it'll be on a hinge. I would guess you'd put your hinge just here so that it's not really much of a bump to lift it back up and over, because essentially it uses all the bike's weight to lock itself in its place and not move. So it's gonna rock. We'll have a piece that comes here, pretty much directly straight down sort of thing, from maybe here, come straight down to here, onto a hinge, and then straight across. And then that'll be circular like that. With a hinge, yeah, right about there I think. Because that's where the tyre is not actually touching currently, which means it should rock up and in and then be locked into place, is what I would assume. So that's what we're gonna do. So I'll take some measurements and then we'll just start having a go. We'll see where we go, how we go, whichever way you wanna look at it. All right, so this is a piece of plate we're gonna use to make this flip-flop thing. I think the easiest way is to make one solid plate that comes out from the back of it, and then build the hinge system off of that, and then we can like self-tap it or screw it into the wood floor. But in my opinion, it shouldn't really need any support, because the wheel and the weight of the bike does all of the locking in on its own. Like when it drives into here, there'll be weight on this, and the hinge will have weight on it. So really this shouldn't have any reason to pull up or flip or move or twist or anything like that. So really doesn't need to be anything heavy, I don't feel. And So a good size. It's only like, I'd say it's 3 mil. Hopefully we can somehow manage to bend this a little bit, but we'll see how we go. I'll just get these 2 pieces cut out, and then I'm sort of thinking maybe I'll weld them onto it, just so I can sort of actually sight it, and it seems to always be easier for me to do it that way, just to look at what I'm doing as I do it. Then I can assess the next situation. The other thing I'm probably doing wrong here is I'm building 2 at once. It's always good to build a prototype and then replicate that prototype when you've got it right, but we're just gonna wing this. I think I got it right, so we're just gonna build both sides in one hit and hope for the best. All right, so what we'll do is we'll just put a simple tack in here somewhere, just one, and then we'll put a square on it, try and get these as square as possible, and then we'll weld them out once we got them square. Alright guys, so it's the plate, the wheel, the front chock, that's all good. These are the 2 pieces we got left over, which should be just enough. I've marked the short side or long side, but I went a little bit into that anyway. That's actually a long side mark there. But basically, that'll sit in there like that. And then I'll bend this up into a radius to try to curl it around this tire. Now the only way I actually think I'm going to be able to bend this, because I don't have an oxy, is I've marked a whole heap of cuts. What I'll do is I'll run my grinder through all these lines, about, we'll say half the thickness, so about 1.5 mil, so just a quick zip. And then I should just be able to get a hammer and just tap them a little bit, and it should eventually put just a little bit of a curve into it. Now it won't need much of a curve. As you can see, like the wheel, it only has to really come to about here. It doesn't have to come very high up. All it is to stop your tire from having a roll point that's easy to roll back from. So, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I'll make some cuts down here, and then we'll start belting it with a hammer and see if we can't get what we're looking for. So you can see I made a few cuts in there. I don't know if you can't really see that, but there's a few cuts in there. Some are a bit thicker than others, but that's all right. Now we'll just probably put it over the table and just start banging it until we get the desired curve that we're looking for, and we'll go from there. Alright, now it's not perfect, but you can see it's pretty good. I'm fairly happy with that. I might give it a bit more of a tweak, but I think that'll be fine. Like, it'll be okay to have a little bit of movement in there. What we'll do is we'll probably TIG every one of these up. I'd MIG it, but it just won't look as nice. Just a flat bead and MIG just doesn't look as good as a TIG will. TIG I'll be able to just leave there. I won't have to grind it off, so I'll probably just TIG them all these grooves back up, and then we'll work something out to do with a hinge, and I think that'll be good. I'll get the other one done, and then we'll TIG them up. All right, so we got our plate. Looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. There are all the ribs from being TIG'd in there. The outside just grounded off so it looks a bit nicer. Alright, so the wheel's gonna sit in there like that. And then I went at the back, had some big long bolts that are about this long. I just chopped them off, And I got some M12 bolts, and I've just drilled the thread out of them, so they're like 13 now, 12.5, something around that. I can't remember what the drill bit was, probably 13. So they fit over this and they spin her up. Basically the thought behind it is put the bolt on the nut on the bolt. You can place it in there. Might notch this out just a little bit to carry the bolt better. Put it in there, and then this will just basically like so. It's moving at the moment and ruining everything, but you get the drift. That's how it works. So now I just gotta get those bolts located where I want them. These nuts, sorry, and then I'll be on the home stretch, I think. All right, let's get to it. All right, so about 100 mil in from the plate, right where I got this nut, is where I think I want to put it. I think that's about right. So now we'll just try and tack this nut in place. So what I'll do is I'll grind those little notches out, and then we'll come back and sit it on there and see if it looks good. And then we'll weld the other nuts in, and then hopefully it should be a working mechanism. Alright, so what I've done is I went and got one of the other nuts for the thing, and I've basically ground it down to like a ring shape. So it's circular now, but it's got one flat edge up here, which will mount to that, like so. So we'll just stick that back in there. Alright guys, so it's all mounted up there. The biggest issue is that I want this to be removable currently. With it being removable, this pin has the ability to do these ones. And the pin moves with the spring. With the pin moving with the spring, it doesn't actually allow this to stay where it needs to stay. It does hold itself sometimes, but if the bolt goes to turn, the whole thing will just flip over with it. That is a problem, so maybe I do make it like a solid dealio. The other idea is I could also run a split, I could change my positioning with this split pin and drill it through this bottom bolt that way and then lock it off this way, and that will allow me to make this bolt sort of turn all the way around like that and work the way it's actually sort of supposed to work. That's the other option. So that's actually a really good option. So I think we'll paint her up and then we'll try and load her. Alright, it's all painted. We'll let it dry. We'll fit it to the ute, and then it's time for a bit of ram and probably crash. But as you've seen, we call it the donkey. Just walked through just up there a couple of seconds ago. If you rewind, you'll see the donkey cruise from out there through the shed into my backyard. Donkeys, what are you gonna do? Alright guys, there it is, the finished product, all bolted on. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I did end up changing this split pin setup here. Let me get some focus. So you can see the hole there where it was originally, just there. Now it goes through the bolt, and now this works perfect. So that's exactly how you want it. Lifts up, as soon as it lets the pressure off, comes back down. It's absolutely perfect. I couldn't ask for any better result. Big shout out to my mate who let me steal the spring off his quad that I got stored here. That's basically just a parts bike. doesn't run. Blew a motor a couple of years back now. So yeah, it's been good. That side's got a dodgy spring. I don't have another good spring, so I will end up changing it. But yeah, for now it is what it is, and it'll work fine, but just doesn't operate. That one doesn't operate as good as this one. That one doesn't return unless you physically make it return, and then it will stay there. Otherwise it will just drop back on its own, so it's not really well. I did try to counterbalance them, because of course like there's more here on this side, like lengthwise. So the other side, you can sort of tell, you know, it finishes. I've sort of chopped it off, you know, 25 mil back to try and like counterweight it, but it didn't really work. So that's fine, but it works. It works good. Really happy with that. So the bike will ride on like that, and then it'll push onto that, lock the back of it in, and as soon as that locks in, it should be up against this perfect. So that's good. And then we tie it down there. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. All right guys, now I know there's a lot of guys out there that they're capable of riding on the back of a ute. I think it is a mind over matter sort of thing, and there is a little bit of science behind it as well. So my idea of doing it, I think, is going to be momentum, which also means when I get to the top, I need to stop, whereas other people do sort of ride up them, if that makes sense. So I'm going to try and, I guess, coast up the ramp. I know a lot of people do that. You also see guys come up it and do backflips, land in the holders, strap them down. They're amazing. I'm shit, so that's definitely not going to happen. There's going to be no backflips here. The only backflip we're going to have is me falling on the ground, if that happens. I'm going to have a few cracks at it. If I can't get it, I can't get it, but we'll have a few goes at it. I might show you guys me having a go at it. And then if I get this and I'm feeling confident, we might try and load the YZ that way as well. We'll see. That's a whole nother kettle of fish. This thing's a lot tamer than the other one. I'm even tempted to do the 125 instead of the 140, just because it's really tame. But then it might just die trying to go up the ramp with my fat ass on it. So we're gonna get the ute out in the backyard now, and we'll see how we go. Alright guys, that was probably a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I don't know if you can hear it in the camera, but the 2 strokes in there warming up now. We're going to give it a go on the 250. I don't know how we'll go. If it's anything like the 140, it was fine. I did like 2 little roll-ups to it just to sort of get a feel for what it was going to be like to hit the ramp. And it is that initial ramp hit, I think, is the hardest bit, because it is such a steep incline. Like, it's just a hit it and then it goes up, so you just sort of, once I got a little bit of feel for it, and then I was like, I think the only way I'm going to make it is just to go and just hit it. So I did that, but 250 is a little bit scarier. It does wheelies and all sorts of random crap. So I'll probably do a couple of roll-ups on it, see how I go, and then we'll try and just hit this ramp and make it on the ute in one hit. All right, guys, let's see how we go. Alright guys, so there it is, it's on the ute. As you can see there, she fits into the tire holder at the front. This bit here is doing its job pretty much perfect. Pretty much couldn't ask for a better result than that. Yeah, it's outstanding. Super chuffed about it. I know I've only got a dodgy ramp, it's not even aluminium POV pack, but it'll be right. But there we go. Mind over matter, and you will succeed, guys. Just tell yourself you can. and you'll get it done. Alright, now I'm fat, I got little legs, I don't touch the ground, but we're going to see if we can just push this off and then sort of jump off with it without crashing. Since we got it up here, surely we can get it out. And it'll show proof of concept for how it rolls out of the holder. Which is pretty easy. Rolls out of the holder like that. Perfect. Alright guys, that's going to conclude episode 2 of the bike chock wheel holder. I'm really happy with the results. Everything works well. This worked really well when I rode onto the ute with the bikes. That was it's scary. It got the adrenaline going. If you haven't done it before, for me, these might be different, but for me that was definitely, it's an off-putting sensation knowing you're going up something fairly sharp and then you've got to stop pretty quickly. But once I did it on the pit bike, I was feeling pretty confident. I had a roll up on the YZ to just see what it was going to feel like to hit the ramp. Being it's a bigger bike, more power, blah blah blah. But I did a lot more of the like a coasting style, I think, on the YZ. But yeah, all in all, I'm happy with the result on the riding up the ramp. That was great. I'm really happy with how this turned out. Yeah, I couldn't be happier with the way that works and operates. It looks really good. Is there anything else similar to this or other bike stuff you might want to see me try and build? Like, I'm happy to try and have a go at things, whether it be your what do they call a chassis stand or center stands, where you stand on the pedal and it throws a leg up. Maybe I'll have a go at one of them. Yeah, let me know what you guys want to see and I'll see what I can't make, see what I can't come up with. Yeah. Alright guys, well, remember to subscribe, like the channel, subscribe to the insta steelandwheels.yt. There's some up and coming videos and some other stuff that don't get shown on YouTube. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one and I'll see you next time. Thanks guys.